To me, this is one of the most important quotes, truths any of us can hear. And I think we need to be reminded of this every single day. This is by Rumi, my favorite spiritual thinker, writer, poet. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. I think every single day in so many different ways, we're looking for love. We're looking for validation. We're looking for so many things that we need, or we think we need, when in fact our time would be so much better spent rather than trying to get something from without to actually going within to that deepest part of us and looking for all the ways in which my ego is keeping me from loving and being loved, all the ways in which my wounds and my issues and my assholeness are keeping me from being who I was born to be, you know? So I want to...
I'll tell you in a couple hours, okay?
If you'll mute yourself where nobody can hear you except the person speaking. I want to start by defining compassion. Compassion is literally feeling what someone else feels. It is the act of putting ourselves in someone else's place. And because of that, to a large extent, it's a work of the imagination, which is why I think literature, the arts in general, but literature in particular, is so helpful in developing compassion. Because when we read, as particularly fiction, well, not just fiction, but when we are actually inhabiting characters, whether they be a first-person narrator of a novel or someone's autobiography, we are actually getting inside of them and their thoughts and their feelings and in the most intimate ways. We are getting inside another person, and that's what compassion is putting ourselves in their place. How would I feel if that were me? How would I respond and react if that were me? And it's everyone we encounter needs compassion. They need us to put ourselves in their place. We need that from everyone. And this, I do think that it can be developed. I think that we can continually increase our empathy. And bringing empathy up, I want to say that there's a big difference between empathy / compassion versus pity. If I pity you, I feel superior to you. I'm looking down on you and saying, bless your heart. I feel so sorry for you, but that's not me putting myself in your position. That's not me saying I am you. I am no better than you. And perhaps our issues are slightly different, but we all have them. We're all broken. It's just in different ways. And my ego wants to pity you. My ego wants to feel sorry for you. My soul wants to have compassion and actually link with you and connect over our shared need, shared humanity. The second part of what we're talking about today, I use the term compassion for ourselves. I think it'd be a little, it'd take too long to get into what that might actually be. So I just want to sort of change that to self-love or self-care. It is our ability to love others is directly related to how we love and care for ourselves. And so often, say we're codependent, say we're low self-esteem, or dealing with those issues, we feel like caring for others, loving others is what's going to fix us, is what's going to help us, and a lot of times we try to get off our issues and problems and distract ourselves by helping others, by doing for others. But it starts with how we love and care for ourselves. And there's a process for that, and hopefully we'll have time to get into that a little deeper. But for the purpose of our discussion, let's just think of this as self-love or self-care. So how do I love and really appreciate myself with my flaws, with my issues, with everything, with my strengths and weaknesses? And then through that experience, how then can I transfer that through compassion, through imagination to others? The last thing I want to say is that in the Christian scriptures in the book of Luke, there's a passage that is often, I think, very mistranslated. It says something to the effect that be perfect as God is perfect, which is a ridiculous thing to say and just a horrible translation. The actual word there is womb. And the word compassion in this Greek language and the word womb are the same, are very similar words. What we're invited to do by Jesus is to be wombish, to actually be like he's saying, God is a womb, and nobody is able to have as much compassion as a mother for her child, as someone who has been linked to, carried in her womb this other person. And so I'm inviting us today to be more wombish, to be more motherly, woman-like, to say, I want to feel as deeply as I possibly can for you and what you're going through, and not just live this selfish, self-involved life, but actually connect with you through our shared womb, the womb of God, the womb we all share, our deepest feelings for one another. So that's my little introduction. I'd like for everyone, to speak to that. You can respond to that or just share what you'd like to. And ask LaDonna to go next. And if you, just tell us a little bit about yourself. But I want to say that I've known LaDonna for over 30 years. Went to college together back in Atlanta in 86. So that's a minute ago. So, but thank you so much. Love you. Appreciate you being here. Take it away.
Okay. First of all, just a quick little bio. I was raised in a traditional Christian ministry family. My father and my uncle founded a ministry here in Atlanta in 1960 that became one of the first mega churches in the United States. My grandfather, my brother, host of uncles, everybody I know basically is in the ministry. Which began as traditional Christianity. Over the last 10 years, our specific ministry has kind of shifted under the leadership of my brother. My uncle's passed away, my father's retired. So we've kind of shifted it more to being open to other faiths, not strictly just Christianity. We consider ourselves more of a spiritual center than a Christian church. But of course, that is our background. So that's where I'm from. I've worked with this ministry in one capacity or another my entire adult life. I only began speaking kind of publicly a couple of years ago. So I've written down a lot of what I'm going to say. Please don't be offended if I look down and up. I'm much more comfortable writing than speaking. But I wanted to just say a few things about compassion this morning. The first area being compassion for ourselves. I think one of the best ways you can show compassion for yourself is by following something that is in the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. The second agreement, which is don't take anything personally. And I just want to read quickly what that agreement says. He says, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. So another way to say that is a quote that I like. It says, some people will love you, some people will hate you, none of it will have anything to do with you. Basically, everybody projects. I project on you, you project on me. And because ultimately there is no other reality than your own. And when you think about that, it makes sense because you can never really see from anybody else's perspective than your own. Unless you consciously decide, as Michael was talking about, to put yourself in someone else's shoes, then the only eyes you're ever truly looking through are your own. And even on those occasions when you manage to put yourself in someone else's place and see a situation through their eyes, the experience of that is only temporary, because once you've heard their story and listened to what they've said, you're gonna, no matter how good you become at that, you're eventually gonna flip back to your default setting, which is looking at life through your own eyes, through the filters of the things you yourself have experienced. And it's your job then to try to integrate the lessons you've learned from other people into your own life. But the strongest influence on you is always going to be that what pops up in your thoughts first is going to be your own personal experience. So this is the reason why, excuse me, it's important why we shouldn't take anything personally, because we have to realize that everything that's coming toward us from others is a projection of their experiences. It's coming from the lens of life they are looking through, because the first eyes, just as the first eyes we see things through is our own, that's the same for everybody else. They're seeing through their eyes first. Now, this concept is probably going to sound a little harsh if you're not familiar with it and you've never heard anybody say this before, but I like to say this. When I say I love you, what I'm actually saying is I love the part of myself that being with you brings out in me. Or more simply stated, I love who I am when I am with you. On the face of that, at first, I know it sounds completely selfish, but all that statement is saying is that I can only experience love through my own eyes, through my own feelings, through my own heart. The only way for me to gauge an emotion like love is knowing how it makes me feel. Even if you tell me you love me, I can't feel what you're feeling because that's from your perspective. So when we understand this principle, I think it makes it easier for us not to take things personally, because it's just easier when we realize that other person is seeing through their eyes and you can only experience anything through yourself. So I believe compassion for yourself begins with getting really clear about how you see yourself and becoming really comfortable with who you are, because as cliche as it might sound, at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. Everything else that's coming at you from others is their stuff, but it's really easy to forget that in the heat of the moment. Briefly, compassion for others for me begins with non-judgment. And judgment in itself is not wrong. There is such a thing as good judgment. We even use that sometimes as a way to compliment somebody. They used really good judgment in this or that situation. But judgment is a process of either separation or inclusion. When you judge something or someone, you either judge them as outside of your circle or you include them inside your circle. And so you can change this process, though. I have learned a practice I like, and I like to tell the people that I speak to on a regular basis, by using 3 words, you can change the judgment process. And I'm going to give you an explanation. Like, say you make a judgment and you say something like, she's so stupid, or he's so pushy. Okay, so that's separating you from that person. Now, what some people don't realize, though, judgment and separation can be positive as well. Because even when you make statements like, he is so kind, or she is so beautiful, even though those are positive statements, they're still creating separation, because you're saying the end of that story that remains unspoken is, she is so beautiful and I am not. He is so kind and I am not. But if you just add 3 little words to any statement like that, any statement of judgment, whether it's negative or positive, if you'll just add the 3 words behind it, just like me, then it changes the whole perspective and the whole vibe, because that's really the way that you empathize with other people, is you realize no matter how they're behaving, if it's a behavior you don't like, that you're judging because you don't want to be like that, or you're setting them outside, or if it's a judgment, you're looking at your perspective of, oh, they're this thing that I could never aspire to. Either way, when you add that phrase, just like me, then you identify with them, which makes it easier to have compassion for both that person and yourself. So I love that little practice of just adding the 3 words, just like me, to any time I make a judgment statement. And I find that helps me have compassion for other people.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was brilliant, just like me.
Yes, exactly.
Vanessa, how about you go next? Can you hear me from your villa, wherever that is?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much, LaDonna and Michael. Both of you given me so much to think about, which is what I love about river readings. Appreciate it so much. Let's see. So my name is Vanessa Serio, and I've known Michael, gosh, over 10 years. I think we met at Education Encore, and he's an awesome teacher and a spiritual mentor for me. So thank you for including me today. Let's see. I had a mother who was really gave me a very broad education on religion issues, and we went to we just explored lots of different religions, and so she developed in me this questioning and seeking mentality that I'm so very grateful for. I really loved the things that have been said. I don't have, these are just thoughts. I don't have a coherent speech, but I will look down because I have some thoughts. And as you were talking, I like visual things. And when you were saying to, LaDonna was mentioning not to take it personal, I think that's a really big thing for my whole compassion in this area. And I think of the Q-tip, quit taking it personal, an actual little Q-tip. Other people's behavior usually has nothing to do with me, and that's usually about them. And so that's just a quick little thing to bring that to mind sometimes for me. I love the title of this session because one of my favorite little sayings, I heard it somebody from a speaker one time. She said, sometimes people are doing the best they can and they're still assholes, including me. I love that. I'm like, yes. Loving myself and loving ourselves, self-love, I think help my kind of tenet on that is to that old golden rule to do to others or treat others the way I'd want to be treated. That kind of helps me. And when I appreciate my own dignity and value as a human being, then I'm better able to have compassion for others. In other words, the more acceptance that I can give for myself and my flaws, the more acceptance that I will hopefully have for you as well. And there's this poem that, and I'm going to paraphrase it, and I've added to it a little bit, that is a little poem prayer that I pretty much say daily, and it's called the Desiderata, and it says that go placidly among the noise and haste, and remember in silence there may be peace, as far as possible be on good terms with all other people. I speak my truth calmly, confidently, and then listen to others. Even the dull and ignorant have their stories. And I can learn from everyone, even if that's what not to do. Hi there. Oh, sweetie. And I think that's the thing. Everyone can teach me. And even if that's what not to do. I think that kind of maybe goes to sometimes just like me, but even if it's just not like me, I can still learn from it. Let's see. I think it helps to have curiosity that goes towards that, trying to place myself in someone else's shoes and have empathy. If I have curiosity, that means it's easier for me not to have judgment, and I'm just expressing that seeking behavior. I'm just expressing interest and asking questions and truly wanting to know about someone. I think that helps me lessen my judgment and learn that everyone has their story, and I don't know what it is. Just like I have my own stories and tragedies, so does everyone else. And that kind of helps me to have less judgment, have more compassion for myself and for others. And then I have this other thing that I say, consider the source when I'm dealing with assholes. if a person's pretty much always kind of an asshole, I kind of let it go. I don't let it ruin my day. I right now I call it, I don't get the asshole virus myself or take it on. And that's compassion for me and compassion for them too. We all have our moments. Like I said, no matter how hard I try, sometimes I'm still an asshole, and sometimes others are too. Let's see. I think I've heard Michael say this before. So I think that the Buddhists call it having a beginner's mind. And that's that perspective where there's all kinds of possibilities exist. And I can use my imagination when I'm thinking about other people's stories. And sometimes that helps me generate compassion. I don't have to have any preconceptions or project onto them. And I don't know anyone's burdens or stories. And sometimes maybe I even invent them. Like maybe when that asshole cut me off when I was driving, maybe they have, they're rushing their pregnant wife to the hospital. You know, maybe there's a whole story there that makes that, you know, make sense. So just extending your curiosity and your imagination can help. And finally, I guess one of the things that helps me personally and helps me when I'm dealing with other people that are assholes is that I use prayer. I just think to myself, even if it's begrudgingly, you know, that I wish the best for that person. And when I can say that, even if I say, you know, I just pray for the very best for that asshole, even if that's how I start, it still softens my heart, and it helps me let go of any potential resentments and grudges that I may hold or try to hold on to. And I think of it as like resentments are like poison that I drink and expect others to die. That's all I've got. Thanks so much for listening to me and letting me talk on the subject. And thanks for the topic. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Fantastic. All right, Carrie, how about, are you ready? Did you go next?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for having me. My name is Carrie Fioramonti, and I thought I knew what I was going to say, but you just sparked something in me, Vanessa, that reminded me about one of the things that I've actually been engaging in lately, actually the past year or two here at school. I teach at Gulf Coast State College, and I'm on the Diversity and Inclusion Affairs Committee. And I already knew this, but it just kind of, some of the words that you shared kind of it has popped into my head, you know, with regard to compassion, with regard to being able to put yourselves in other people's shoes, maybe attempt to see things from another perspective by, you know, engaging in these types of endeavors, events that we've had with our Diversity and Inclusion Affairs Committee. I have really experienced a much deeper appreciation just for so many different types of people, so that it kind of helps me realize that they're not an asshole. They're just not like me, right? So it's one of the things that I've actually been working quite a bit on here at school. So I wanted to just remind, I guess, folks of that. I think sometimes we're afraid of differences, afraid of others, or maybe there's something that makes us uncomfortable about others that might be different from us. And I think instead of, you know, being afraid of that, we should really be curious, just like you said, want to hear more about it so that it might help us to you know, develop the compassion, the consideration for other people. So I actually also wanted to say a couple of things about compassion and really coming from a relationships perspective. And I don't oftentimes borrow from Christian biblical texts, but this particular instance, really I wanted to share something with you guys that had been shared with me many years ago by my former pastor. Alan Newton at Woodlawn United Methodist Church. He was, I'll just say he's my favorite pastor ever. He really helped me heal during a very difficult time. And he would do these wonderful series. And one of my favorite series that he did was called, how to be joyful in a stressful world. And so he broke down all of these different titles. And some of them were, joy no matter what, joy, in spite of, joy in spite of, hang on a second, let me just look at my note here, because there were so many of them. In spite of adversity, so when you're facing adversity. But my favorite one was joy in spite of people. Because relationships really are, they create some of the most wonderful experiences in our lives and some of the worst experiences of our lives. And so how do we deal with that? And so it actually brought me to the book of Philippians. It's a really tiny little book in the Bible, and it is so packed full of good stuff, and it's really all about joy. Philippians 2, verses 1 through 4 talks about Christ's humility, and I'd like to read that for you. If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any fellowship with the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and purpose. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. And again, this is just a really powerful book for me. And there's like 3 parts to those words. We delete the conceit, we decrease the criticism, and we develop consideration with each other. And so C.S. Lewis, he has a fantastic quote, because if you think about, conceit, what is that? Well, you're kind of elevating yourself to maybe be better or more important than others, or maybe having a better opinion of yourself than others. Another way to kind of, I guess, reword that would be, don't do anything from the cheap desire to present yourself better. Right, which we all do. I mean, we all do this, right? Because we're all assholes, right? We want to do this. It makes us feel better. But C.S. Lewis said, pride is the mother hen under which all other sins are hatched. And so these are going to kind of build on top of each other. So, in that first part where we're saying delete the conceit, I think the tendency is that we want to make ourselves the center of the universe. We're the most important. So how can we get away from that? And then the second part would be to decrease criticism. And so, I'm guilty of having that sharp tongue. I know I would sometimes say those words come out of my mouth and I wish I could just gobble them right back up. But you can't, because they're already out there. And that's some damage you just can't undo, right? And I actually, I wanted to play a video for you guys. Do we have time for it? It's just a couple minutes long. Let me see how long this video is. It's 3 minutes. Can I play it?
Absolutely.
I think you guys will like it.
Zoom just sent me a message that they're giving us a little extra time. So
very nice.
Right on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've had this happen before too. And what I've done is if it does cut us off, just jump right back in the meeting and it starts over again. Because I did this last spring for school until we got a subscription. Yeah. Nice. So how can we decrease the criticism? So this one young man on this video has figured out a way to decrease his criticism. Michael, can you make me or whoever the host is, can I share my screen? Can you make me a co-host?
I can try.
Yeah, click on participants.
Okay.
And then right next to my name, host. It'll have little options and you can make me a co-host.
Okay, let's try
this.
I can only make you a host, so I'm doing that now.
Okay, that's fine. That's
now
fine.
You're the host.
Well, I can share my screen, and that's what I would like to do. And so are you guys seeing my YouTube there?
Yes.
Video? All right, so I'm going to turn it up because that's really the only way I can play the sound. I haven't figured out a better way to do this, but I think you guys will get a kick out of this.
Complete zapper. Zap away your negativity.
Can you hear it?
Okay.
Yes.
Do not use if you're pregnant, have a heart condition, or wear braces. Guess I'm good to go. To test, hold it in front and say something negative. Easy enough. Boy, this weather really stinks. Yikes. Whatever it takes.
Have y'all seen this before?
Very comfortable. Just me a little bit. Let's give this thing a test run. Man, it is freezing out today. Okay, you know what? Stating a fact. I'm stating a fact. Boy, this coffee is terrible. Don't freeze up on me now, you lousy. What's this? Same. I can't keep one single thing. I know what you mean. That's just how he is. He's like, woe is me, my life is so terrible. You gotta be kidding. This is unbelievable. I can't even get it. It's green. Come on, lady. Will you Yes, hello. Is this the Complaint Chapter Complaint Center? Yes, I have a suggestion. I think your complaint zapper is far too sensitive. As a matter of fact, I think it's a piece of junk, and I want my full. That's it. You're coming off. I'm done with you. Great. Now I'm going to have this thing on for the rest of my stinking life.
Oh, man. So that cracks me up every time. But it gives you such a good, a great illustration of, and let me share that link.
Can you put the ordering information for the device? Can you put that in?
I will share the link though. I mean, it's really easy to find on YouTube. But so decreasing criticism, right? So everybody is worthy of respect. Everybody has value. And so when we criticize, we cut them down. And if we're thinking about how in this scripture, you can kind of go wrong. You can, kind of going in the wrong direction. In the first part, we were talking about being the center. I'm the center of my universe. And so we don't want to go in that direction. And here, because I'm the center, I have to tear other people down, right, to remain the center. And again, we want to avoid that. That's not how we can have healthy relationships that bring us joy. And then the last part of that, the words talk about developing consideration. And so, I think by focusing on each other, really paying attention to what each other needs, and putting the needs of others ahead of your own, we can develop that consideration. And when we really can do that, that's when we can demonstrate Christ's humility and develop the compassion that will bring us those joyful relationships.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm unmuted.
Thank you.
I stepped away a few times because as you guys were speaking, different books came to mind that I wanted to recommend. And of course, the one I want to recommend the most, I can't find. I can't put my hand on, which is just driving me crazy. It happens all the time. But I highly, highly, highly recommend David Foster Wallace's This Is Water. It is a very small book. It's actually, I'm telling you, it's driving me crazy. I can't find it. It was a commencement speech he made. It is one of the best little books on compassion. It's just brilliant. He was such a brilliant writer. And I think he gave this speech within a year or so of killing himself. And it's just brilliant. So I highly, highly recommend it. And then I also wanted to recommend, can you see that? It's too bright. Okay. 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life by Karen Armstrong. Karen Armstrong is one of the foremost experts on religion in the world and fantastic writer. All of her books are excellent, but this one is truly profound. 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life. I want to read two more quotes that really mean a lot to me that I try to live by. And then I want to, anybody else who wants to say anything, please feel free. Henry James, 3 things in human life are important. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. And then the Dalai Lama, my religion is very simple. My religion is kindness. If we can practice kindness with ourselves, and that is the challenge. And then if we can practice kindness with others, I don't think there's anything better that we could do. And it's not easy, and our ego is our enemy. And everything you guys have mentioned is just so true and so profound. And I think about how often I try to look better than I am. And the ways in which my ego is defending me against being kind to myself and others, to being loving and accepting. And then how often I do take things personally, and not realize this is, someone else's. I mean, I've done that this week. I playing basketball on Wednesday night, went up for a jump shot. The guy hit my arm. I called a foul, and he went off on me. And then so did his teammates. Like, I made up the foul, and I took that so personally. And I got so upset. You couldn't tell, but internally. And then the rest of the night, it just bothered me so much. And I was like, dude, you should be past this, but I'm not. And anyway, thank you so much. So why don't we start back with LaDonna and then just go through, and we've got about 7 minutes left, I think, to give a little 10-minute break. So just share anything you want, and then we'll pass it on down the line. Thank you.
Okay, quickly, I just wrote a couple of things down as the rest of you were talking. One of the quotes I love is, everyone is the Buddha, but everyone is also an idiot. So that's good to remember. Then when Vanessa was talking, I wrote down, yes, sometimes you can learn from other people, even if it's what you don't want to be like, or so every situation, even if you perceive it as negative, it has value because you can learn, okay, that's a behavior that I see in this person that I don't want to repeat. And then the next thing I wrote down was a quote I've heard before is anger. I did a whole teaching once on emotions, and something that we call masking emotions, which sometimes the emotion that people show is not it's just the mask emotion, and the root emotion is something that's underneath. And one of my favorite quotes concerning that is, anger is just sad's bodyguard. Because a lot of times when we're sad or we're hurt, because of our culture, we've been conditioned that it's not okay. That shows weakness. So instead of showing our sadness and our hurt, we show anger instead. And then the next thing, the little video that you showed, Carrie, I was thinking about the fact that how important it is, how much we underestimate just the power of changing our language, of the things that we say, because our words are really, really, really important. And one little practice I've learned how to do in my life is, I try as much as possible not to say, even in passing, I have to do this. I say, because I'm choosing. I don't have to do anything. So it's amazing how much just making a little shift like that in your language can make a difference in your whole attitude of, I don't have to go do this. I'm choosing to go do this. And then the last thing I want to say is I heard Brene Brown one time. I think that Carrie was also talking about just being kind to other people and noticing, being aware. She has this thing that she talks about, sliding door moments, where you have like these little windows of opportunity to be kind to somebody. And sometimes it's easy to pass those by. She tells a story about a man who's reading a mystery novel, like such as you write, Michael. And he was right at the point where he wanted to finish. He was almost done, but he had to go to the bathroom. So he gets up from where he's reading and he goes to the bathroom. And when he walks into the bathroom, he notices that his wife is really sad. But in his mind, he's like, I'm just going to ignore the fact that she's sad because I don't want to have to deal with her sadness right now. I need to, because I want to get back and finish reading my book. But she says, those are those little sliding door moments that we never know how important that's going to be to somebody else. It might have been a huge thing for her. And if she noticed he passed her by and didn't notice her sadness because he wanted to finish reading his book, that could have been a pivotal point in their whole relationship. So
but the only time that's justifiable is when you're reading a mystery novel.
Right. Okay, one more thing I want to say that I thought about is I have a little bit different take on the me first of that whole attitude of me first as being selfish. And the different take I have on that is I believe you can't give anything to anybody else that you don't already have. And so the only time me first is acceptable is when you're keeping your own emotional cup full and your own emotional level stable so that you have that to give to other people. It's like the whole thing about, you know, if you're a mom of young kids and you're tired and stressed out all the time, you're not going to be a good mom. So at some point you got to take a day or whatever, 20 minutes for yourself so that you can fill up to be a better mother or a better person to other people. So instead of seeing me first as always from that selfish perspective, I like to see it not as being selfish, but self-full when you're doing things that fill your own cup for the good of everyone around you.
Absolutely. Let me just say this real quick, and then Vanessa will go to you. The father of the self-help revolution, M. Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled and started everything, in his teachings, he would say there's only selfishness, there's good selfishness, and there's bad selfishness, you know? And so when we think about the things we do, we are doing them for ourselves first. We're taking the right approach where we're getting what we need in order to give to others. And if you look at the greatest teachers, givers, they do that. They fill the well, they fill up. And then a lot of times you'll catch them, they're off in the morning by themselves, refilling whatever they're doing, and then go back out and help others. To do anything else is codependency. It's taking care of others instead of ourselves. And that's a very unhealthy thing to do. Vanessa.
Awesome. Thank you, LaDonna. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Carrie. Just so many good things here. Piggybacking off of what just LaDonna had said, again, with a visual, I think of the, in the airplane when they tell you to put on your oxygen mask first and then place it on your children, because I'm no good to anyone else if I haven't placed that oxygen mask on myself first. So I think of that as not selfishness, but self-care. And I had a couple of quotes. Oops. And here's one of them. If we know that everyone is a wave in the same ocean, we will challenge injustice without judgment. And I liked that. And then also there's, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. I love this one. We must realize that the evil deed of my enemy neighbor, the thing that hurts, I'm sorry, hold on. We must realize that the evil deed of the enemy neighbor, the thing that hurts, never quite expresses all that he is. An element of goodness may be found even in our worst enemy. And again, if you can't find it, you can look for what you don't want to be, what you don't want to do. There's value in everything and everyone if we look for it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're out of time. We'll take a 10-minute break before we start our next session. I want to thank you all so much. I've gotten so much out of this, and I am very, very grateful to you. I hope you will come back and join us for all the sessions today. Remember that you have to click on, join each one individually. Also, remember you can come in at any time. So if you're running late or anything, that's fine. Also, hope you'll join us for the luncheon, where virtually we're just going to eat together. And we've got some amazing artists that are going to share their work with us. So very much looking forward to that. So see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.